What would you do for a 4.0 GPA? This week, murder is on the syllabus. We're continuing Lillard Mayhem with The Curve, also known as Dead Man's Curve, a twisted little thriller where college pressure, paranoia, and Matthew Lillard level chaos collide.
Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Danielle, and we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of the best and worst movies from the late 90s and early 2000s. And this month, we're all in on Lillard Mayhem, celebrating the wild, weird, and wonderful career of Matthew Lillard. And this week's pick might be one of his most underrated performances. We're talking 1998's The Curve. But before we dive in, let's get into some housekeeping. You know what, Jackie?
It's a
I thought
horror
we were over
movie.
that. Is it? I don't think so.
It wants to be.
I wasn't scared though. Not this time.
Okay,
You didn't
good.
get me. If you love the podcast and you want to support us, here's a few ways that you can.
Head on over to our Amazon store for cult classics, movie night faves, and some inspired Lillard picks. Check out amazon.com/shop/no more late fees podcast.
Want to help support our late night rewatches and chaotic bonus episodes? Buy us a coffee on Coffee. Every contribution helps us keep the Blockbuster vibes alive. Visit us at ko-fi.com/no more late fees.
And get bonus episodes, exclusive content, and more when you join the No More Late Fees Patreon. We'd kill for your support. Just kidding. Kind of. Become a bestie by heading to patreon.com/no more late fees. Now, what's The Curve about?
Well, Jackie, The Curve follows two college students who exploit a rumored academic loophole known as the dead man's curve. If your roommate dies, you get an automatic A, or aka 4.0. What starts as a hypothetical soon turns dark when their plan spirals out of control and paranoia sets in. Pretty much it's Dead Man on Campus, but less funny.
My family sat down to watch this movie, and you had mentioned that one of our listeners, Dale, wanted to do Dead Man on Campus, Johnny's best friend. And so we sit down and we start watching the movie, and Johnny and I are looking at each other like, is this the same premise as Dead Man on Campus? And then Mom sits down, she's like, oh, this wasn't the movie Danielle was talking about earlier? Everyone was confused.
I too was confused because I've heard of this movie many a times. I remember seeing it, I think, on the shelves when we were at Blockbuster, but this is not it. The movie stars Matthew Lillard, Michael Vartan, Carrie Russell, Randall Battenkoff, directed by Dan Rosen, and written by Dan Rosen. Currently watch it on Fandango at home. But before we start, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So you know the drill. Before we get into the movie, we'll reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial ratings. Our scale consists of would buy it again.
The best would play on repeat.
5-day rental.
Would watch again.
2-day rental.
It's okay, but nothing to write home about.
And same-day rental.
Kick that shit off the cliff. It's trash.
Danielle, what was your Y2K
Yes.
rating of The Curve?
Well, I think we were in the same place this week in the fact that we have never seen this movie.
Never, ever.
So, yeah, it's a never seen.
Oh, this
Same
would have
for
been
you.
a good one to watch live, like have a live
Yeah.
and watch it, because
Yes, it was. I love me some Carrie Russell, but she can only take me so far.
and that's like I knew from the cover box this was not it. And as much as I love Matthew Lillard, I was like, you're gonna stay on that shelf, Matthew. Think about what you did in this movie.
Well, let's get to box office. And surprise, surprise, couldn't find it. Couldn't find the box
Mm.
office numbers. How much budget? Nothing. Could not find it. And again, I'm not surprised. I originally remember thinking that this movie was straight to DVD, straight like I thought it was a TV movie.
Yeah, I would have assumed
S-
so as well.
Well, surprise on us because the film because the film premiered at the Sundance Festival in 1998 and it was an official selection at that.
Huh? Fuck you say?
But if you don't believe us, let's hear what the critics had to say. Dennis Harvey from Variety said, "Curve bends too low for upscale odds." That's his cute way of saying audiences. It's also problematic for mainstream ones, as a near horror thriller sans on screen violence or genuinely surprising plot twist. It will take aggressive marketing to reap quick payoff on a film likely to get just lukewarm critical and word of mouth response. William Thomas of Empire, who must be on drugs, said, "Boasting originality and easygoing hipness and a disregard for convention, this represents all that's good about the American indie scene." He rated it 4 out of 5 stars.
I
I
have
don't think William has a
I have
job. And
grievances. Number one, how'd you get into Sundance with this shit? Number two, who paid the same person who paid Sundance paid William Thomas of Empire to write this review? Because we've seen good American indie movies. This shit is not it.
yeah, I, I, I'm, I, I'm a loss for words. I can't even get words out. And quite honestly, it's a bad movie when Robert Ebert hasn't seen it. Well, Lil Raj even didn't even review it. Maybe he did, but I couldn't find it.
You know
Couldn't
it's a
find
bad
it.
movie when you can't find the box office on it. Because
You
that
know
means
it's
it did enough where it's not going to show up on lists of like making no money in the theater, and that's noteworthy.
right. And it
But
didn't
it,
make any like money from VHS or DVD
yeah,
sales.
oof. And this is Felicity Carrie Russell, correct?
Yes, this is well, it was like probably right when Felicity started.
Okay.
She might have filmed this right. I'm assuming they probably filmed it in 97, and I think Felicity came out in 98. Let me just check when it
But
came
this
out.
is post Scream Lillard.
Right. I don't, and it makes me wonder if maybe this filmed beforehand. I did see an interview with Matthew Lillard where he talks about how he really didn't get to reap the benefits of Scream. Like, yeah, it did really well, but it's not like a bunch of offers or things came rolling in because of Scream for him personally.
Got it.
So that man just had to keep working, you know what I mean? So he did he did the best he could. Okay, so Felicity came out in 98.
Okay.
So I'm guessing again that she filmed this movie right before she started Felicity. And a Carrie Russell connoisseur, could tell by her hair. I always know what season of life she's in by what her hair looks like. And so if you see like the bleach blondness of it, they darkened it for sure and cut it when she went on Felicity. It
Okay.
was definitely more brown.
So this is like
But
post Mickey Mouse Club trying to find
oh
her
yeah,
way.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to have this came out before Malibu Shore, after Malibu Shores, I think, or during that time. because that was only one season, a show that got canceled. And then 8 Days a Week. This is the same hair from the movie 8 Days a Week.
Okay.
I'm gonna take you on a ride whenever we can get through these Carrie Russell movies. They're not great. Not all of them are great. I'm not gonna lie. I love my girl, but
Well,
some of them are not that great.
before we get into the movie, because shocker, this week we don't have cast and crew. We have no fun facts for that. So before we get into the movie, let's hear a message from our pod pals.
Hey guys, it's your good friend George with his good friend Megan. And guess what, everyone? The No Season 2 podcast is back.
Yeah, we are. But don't you think it would have been more appropriate if our podcast about TV shows that only lasted one season only had one season?
Whatever, Megan. Can we get just a little enthusiasm over there?
Fine. How's this? The No Season 2 podcast is back.
Oh, that's so much better.
I know. That's right. So join us every week where we rewatch, reevaluate, and in some cases, well, let's be honest, most cases, relitigate this cult classic from the early aughts.
Strap in, everyone. It's going to be quite the ride.
Yep, I was right. 8 Days a Week,
Okay.
1997. Same hair.
So this
Not a good
movie,
Yeah.
nothing happens. Okay, so to set the scene, when I watched it, my whole family watched it with me. We had Mama
okay.
Terry, we had Johnny, we had Heather, we had Ken, we had Keith, all watching The Curve together. And about
I'm so sorry, family.
like 3/4 of the way through the movie, I was like, "Oh, is Rand still alive?" And Ken's like, Ken had been playing on his phone the whole time. Like, and laying with his back to the TV and kind of looking upside down at the TV, just occasionally.
Right.
He goes, "Duh, you didn't know that from the beginning when you didn't see him push him off the cliff?" I was like, so I was getting shamed. I was going to say in my own house, but I'm at my sister's. So I was getting shamed from Ken. And then we are all just sitting around confused as fuck the whole time. Like, what is this? What's happening? Why is Matthew Lillard being the most Matthew Lillard, which could have worked in this movie if he was given something
Right.
to work with? It was just
Right. Unhinged nonsense. It was unhinged.
It felt like a college screenplay that some privileged man got to make. And he thought he was hot shit because it was his script and his directorial debut. Actually, I don't think it was his directorial debut, but he got to direct it and he wrote it. And this was going to blow people's fucking minds. And we were just confused.
And was he wrong? Yes. But also, was he wrong? Because it got into Sundance.
I'm telling you, he must have known someone. Someone owed him a favor and got this shit into Sundance.
100%. 100%. Oh, quick fire thoughts before we try to pretend about the plot. Michael Vartan, sir. I didn't because I love Alias so much, I didn't realize how much this man he plays the same character almost every time. I think the only time I've seen him kind of veer from this, whatever, I don't even know how to describe the roles that he continues to play, would be when we saw him in Tu Wong Fu. And that was like a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
He
does
looked like he couldn't be
mediocre
bothered.
white man very well.
Yeah, I have to look and see like which movies I've seen with him. So it's like Monster-in-Law, this movie now, Alias, the TV show, and what's that one with Drew Barrymore? Never Been Kissed.
Yeah.
I promise you could just interchange these different versions of him in those movies. You wouldn't tell the difference. You couldn't.
We could make Never Been Kissed the horror it was always meant to be.
I think it was horror enough. I don't think we need to do anything. I saw one of our podcast mutuals posted a video of like all the different 90s, well, not 90s, but rom-com couples and if they thought they were together still. And for Never Been Kissed, they were like, no. They broke up shortly after when he was mad that she wasn't a 17-year-old girl. Like, damn.
No lies detected.
I could just see him like going on that field and just say, sure, we'll make out. But after this, we are done. I just don't want to humiliate myself in front of all these people.
Yeah. Well, the curve. Okay, so we're introduced to the worst human on planet Earth, Rand. He's just an asshole. They're trying to play
horrible.
Well, yes, we find out they are all horrible. But at the beginning, he is the worst.
Yes.
They're playing this game where it's like you have to get your partner to guess the name of the person on the piece of paper. And like he's describing a baseball player to his girlfriend and she's like, I don't watch baseball. I don't do sports. And he's like super pissed at her and like screaming at her in like the cafeteria or the lodge or wherever the fuck they are on campus. And in front of all of their friends too.
He was very abusive verbally that could easily slip into like full on. He was horrible. And then I think what makes it worse is that his friends also are pretty crappy. Like no one even tries to attempt to stop him whatsoever at all.
Yes, which is illustrated in a scene we'll get into later that I was enraged by. And then his girlfriend's like, I don't feel well. And he's like, we're going again. 2 is pathetic. We should have gotten at least 5. And he's like screaming at her. And then meanwhile, Carrie Russell and Michael Vartan are like, Grace and
from that movie
Will
with
and Grace?
Vince Vaughn and Reese. Oh no, I was thinking of Reese Witherspoon.
I can't remember if it's Grace and Will or if it's Karen and Jack, but they're like saying like one word and getting it. And so then that just enrages Rand more. And then his girlfriend's like, I'm going to my room. Like, I don't feel well, blah, blah, blah. So then you immediately see, they don't bury the plot in this at all. You just immediately see pregnancy test. Like, and then,
okay,
are you sure?
Before we even get there, Nat, I will say this, Rand is a grade A dickwad. Full stop. But Nat is the kind of, I would say, woman that gets on my nerves. There's nothing that bothers me more than a passive, get treated like shit kind of woman. Mainly it's because I don't understand it. Like I can't relate to it in any way. Not that I ever believe anybody deserves to be verbally or physically abused, but it does bother the shit out of me. And I don't just mean with how they interact with men, but just in general. Like, I understand people are shy and stuff like that, but it always drives me crazy when people get shitted on and they like don't stand up for themselves. She finally does later, but on the other thing, she's like kind of whiny and just her reactions. And I don't blame the actress. I just blame the script of not knowing how to write women, obviously. But when she says, I don't feel well, I did laugh when Rand was like, well, fucking go to the bathroom. What the fuck are you telling me for? And I was like, if you're not feeling well, yes, go, but what does that mean? Like, she just kept on saying she didn't feel well. Like, she didn't say if she wanted to throw up or like, it was just really weird, that whole interaction. But then, yes,
and I do get like, what do you want me to do for you? Like, tell me how I can help. Don't just keep saying,
right,
I don't feel well and get mad at me. Like, do you need a cold compress? Do you need a barf bucket? Like, do you need some Advil? Help me help you?
Right. I don't know what was going on there. And then, yes, you do get. So the scene where, like, you're saying that next you just see like a pregnancy test because after storms off, then so does Emma, who is played by Carrie Russell, to after her, and like a concern because they're roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And you just cut to Emma looking in the mirror in the bathroom. You see the pregnancy test. So then I'm like, is she pregnant or is, because I wasn't sure. But then
Yeah.
she does this thing where she kind of smirks, like like it's very, very tiny where she looks like a little bit happy. And I was like, ooh, I don't think we could trust Emma. That was my moment of like, some ain't right here.
Well, because we get lots of random throwaway lines. So we get a throwaway line of Emma's pre-med, so she knows how to read a pregnancy test, or she's doing it right. Also, on the wall behind her, what I caught when you were looking at the smirk, I was looking at
Right.
the oh, it was like second
Silver is just not winning
losing
gold or
gold or
something.
something. Yeah. I'm like, that's a weird thing to have on
Hold
your
on.
wall. Yeah. So I was paying attention to that weird ass poster, which at the very end of the movie, they like flash on. I'm like, was this supposed to be like a big reveal into the insights of Emma? Like, I was so fucking confused.
We've just seen so many movies that things are predictable, so it's very rare to surprise us at this point. Or if it's that and the ADHD, because watching movies, we just want to figure it out right away. If you
Yeah.
tell us it's a mystery from jump, we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know
and
which one it
and
is.
and I think I was so apathetic to the cause of figuring out like this mystery because I hated everyone in this movie so much. So I was like, I don't even give a shit. Like, I don't care what clues you're showing me. Like, I don't care. Everyone could die in this movie and I'd be good.
Well, the way that this movie does start, you do see both Michael Vartan and Matthew Lillard's characters, Tim and what's Michael Vartan's?
Brand.
Chris.
Oh,
Tim
Chris.
and Chris. Tim and Chris plotting. They're buying a bunch of stuff. So you see them in a video store, a record store. I don't even know what other store they were buying stuff. But then you also see Chris going to what we figure out is his therapist talking about asking his therapist questions like what signs to look for if your roommate was thinking about committing suicide.
This therapist just freely giving all of this information. I'm like, lady, why aren't you asking? Why
No,
are you asking this?
right. Well, I mean, he does. Okay, so at first it seems like not so bad. Like it's almost like he's showing concern because, like, I think my roommate is showing signs. But when he starts saying, well, give me examples of what kind of books, because he asked what kind of books and movies and stuff and music would they be listening to, and she's just giving lists and lists and she's not questioning it. Also, I didn't understand if she was trying to be sexy in this role or not, because she had some sort of like either it must have been she was trying to stop smoking or something because she was eating candy in almost every scene. But like she had a Twizzler and it looked like she was giving head to the Twizzler, and I was like, this is weird and unnecessary.
So yeah, she was through the course of the movie, she was eating the Twizzler. There was one part where it was a lollipop, and she was not just like eating the lollipop. She was like, what are you
Those
doing
are
to?
some gifs.
And then at one point I'm like, what is that weird band-aid that she has on her? Like, I don't understand.
Oh, I didn't
And
see
then
that.
we realized it was a nicotine patch. Took me and mom a really long time to figure out nicotine patch.
Oh,
And I'm like, the the amount of smoking and different types of smoking apparatus in this movie. So we have the stoners at the lighthouse smoking. You don't really see that too much.
that scene, why?
To introduce the
Well,
weird security man.
why? But we'll get back to that. Continue
Yeah.
your thoughts. Sorry.
So then we have Matthew Lillard, a college student, smoking cigars every chance he gets. We have really weird close-up of one of the cops smoking cigarettes. The other
Mhm.
cop smokes a pipe. And then we have nicotine patch lady, who then at the end is back smoking cigarettes. Chain smoking.
Yeah, I thought it was the president of the dean who had
Oh,
the pipe, because there's this weird scene where the cops come to talk to him, and they're the cop who's been smoking in everyone's space without asking permission, asks for
yes.
permission to smoke as this man is on his pipe, and he's like, "Can I smoke in here?" And he's like, "No, I wouldn't like that." But he's smoking, and I'm just like, I know this is supposed to be funny, but it's so stupid,
And every
so
time
dumb.
they cut to that chancellor or whoever he was, it reminded me of, the narrator in the Rocky Horror Picture Show that they just like randomly
Yeah.
cut to, and he's always like in a smoking and in a pipe. That's who the
Yeah.
chancellor reminded me of.
Yeah.
And the movie is cut, and it's supposed to be like edgy and juxtaposition, and like you don't know in what time frame you're in because it's all spliced together. Not well, like, because I could still follow the story along, but it's like flashbacks of like after Rand commits suicide, and then like Michael Vartan getting all that information from the shrink, and then like the cops show up. Also, the weird fucking camera angles in this movie. Like, we start out, the camera is on the ground in a men's bathroom, tilted up, and we just see shoes and hear talking. And then Matthew Lillard walks out of a stall with like 3 rolls of toilet paper.
You
And
know
now
what
we're introduced
really got?
characters.
I counted 2 bathroom scenes, and
No hand
Matthew Lillard
washing.
didn't wash his hands. And I was like, this is truly a horror movie if I ever seen one.
Hold on one second. I have
Just
to run to the bathroom.
okay. Myth toilet paper got you. I got
I
it.
did. So where are we?
So we see that now that Nat is pregnant, and Emma is her name.
Hmm.
And Emma is telling her, she needs to tell Rand that she's pregnant. And so we now know that Chris and Tim are working on a plan to essentially off Rand because they're all roommates. And what their idea is to go to the frat house, so I guess a party, I don't know what it is, and to have the party and to get him drunk, but they're going to be drinking lemon water instead of tequila, even though the water that they had looked nothing like it looked really weird. It
Yeah.
didn't look like a tequila I've ever seen. And Tim has been setting up all of these things, right? So he meets with not Emma, he meets with Nat, pretty much says, like, I know you're pregnant. And she's like, how do you know? And he's like, you should tell Rand or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And Rand shouldn't have been, he's an asshole and all this other stuff. And then Rand comes and he's like, why are you talking to Tim without me? Essentially,
Mhm.
what were you guys talking about? And so they start arguing and he's chewing her ass out. And the crazy thing that annoys me about, again, about Nat is that when she's telling Emma, like, oh, this is why she can't tell him about the baby and all this other stuff. Like, he wants to go to grad school. I'm gonna ruin it for him. I'm so stupid. As if she did all this stuff by herself.
Yeah.
Craziness. So
Yes.
this all leads up to the party.
Well, and we get another like throwaway line about how she's Catholic, so that's our indication she gonna keep this baby.
Right.
And that they've only been together 3.5 months.
Also, what's with the prejudice talk throughout this movie? Like, why are you talking shit about Canada this hard? I thought I was watching How I Met Your Mother for a second.
Or South Park.
They talk about this girl like dirt because she's from Canada. They called her
French.
they called her French. They called her an illegal or like she's not from here. It was wild. I was like,
I was like, oh, we were talking about this stuff back then? Like,
always, Jackie. Always.
I was just like,
I,
what is happening? Like, what's wrong with Canada?
right. And also, so like she at some point says she's going back home. She says it multiple times, but I never see her go home.
Well, she goes
Okay.
home
So now,
to the Father, the Son, and the Holy
well,
Ghost.
yes, she says, "Take me home, Jesus. It's time." So now and the scene. Okay, so we learn that Chris has ED apparently because he cannot get it up for Emma, even though she has been trying day and night to sleep with her boyfriend.
Because everyone is worried about getting into Harvard.
Right.
Every single person wants to go to Harvard, and there's only so many spots in Harvard, and you have to have the GPA to get into Harvard, which is why we need to offer a roommate to get that 4.0 and increase our odds of being accepted to Harvard for post for why can't I think of the word?
Post grad
Yes, thank you.
for grad school.
Yeah, words were not coming.
Yeah, they're all wanting to go to Harvard, so I'm guessing, I don't know. It doesn't even matter. I was trying to figure out where this movie took place. Apparently, filming took place in Baltimore at Elk Neck State Park, Johns Hopkins University, and Towson University. So, they shot it in, I guess, August of 97.
Oh,
So this is the second Baltimore movie in Lillard Mayhem, back to back,
look at
because
us.
we know Serial Mom was filmed in Baltimore.
Well, next week's movie is definitely not set in Baltimore because the town is in the title of the movie.
Right.
So
Oh
now we're
man.
at the party. We meet, oh, I don't want to get his name wrong. And I want to call him Jimmy or
Yeah, because
Timmy.
they
And
did
that's
him
because
wrong.
South Park. And so I really don't want to get it wrong.
This scene, I was like, oh, I know Jackie ready to throw the book at him. Throw the book at him for real. Was
It
so
is Jimmy.
unnecessary.
So unnecessary. And like it starts out, and I'm like, representation. Like we don't get this unless we're making fun of someone in movies. Like, because at the beginning, the girl's very sweet to him, and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And Jimmy is clearly intellectually disabled and is at college, and she's being very kind to him and asking him how his like studies are going and everything, and then it just fucking devolves, and no one stands up for Jimmy. Justice for fucking Jimmy, because at one point they're like pretty much calling him names to his face and he's not
Right.
understanding. Matthew Lillard's like, give me $10, you made her mad, I'm gonna go buy her flowers, and Jimmy just hands over his wallet. Carrie Russell standing right there. And like you think
So
like, oh, she's gonna stand up for Jimmy. She's like, no. It
she just drinks her beer. But I think this was like a way, in a weird way, like, stay with me. I know this scene was unnecessary and horrible, but I also think this was him trying to give a clue that Emma's actually an asshole herself because she's not really helping and she's just kind of laughing at Tim taking this man's wallet and money and whatnot. So, yeah. And I don't think Chris was there in this scene, right?
no.
It was just Tim, his girlfriend, who like when they walk into the house because Chris is complaining to Emma that he does not want to go to this party. And there another scene unnecessary. There's a woman outside giving flyers at the party saying that there's another event happening that doesn't have alcohol. I don't know what the point of this lady was. I don't know where this was leading to. It was just stupid and annoying.
And they
So
show her
she's out there, they go,
twice.
yes,
Like
like
going into the
wasted
party and
time.
then coming out of the party.
Right. It's just really weird. And when they get in, Tim is slow dancing with this girl, even though it's a fast song. And I was dying, Jackie, watching the background players dancing and stuff. Because now knowing that in movies they don't really have the same song playing or whatever, I was dying laughing because it was just, I was like, is this white people business or is it because it's a different song? I can't tell.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then just so many things about this movie. So then an argument, Chris and Rand get into an argument. Rand punches Chris. And then somehow we're cool enough to go out to the lighthouse and drink together.
Yeah, because they do show that weird scene with the security officer guy who just won't stop talking about nonsense. We see Rand kind of drinking there, so that I guess that's supposed to position that this is his drinking spot, I guess. But yeah, so Rand punches him. If anyone clocked me the way that Rand clocked Chris, we either fighting again or we're never talking again. Because
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? You just pushed the woman that just said she was pregnant. And I didn't even like hit you yet. I just got in between you to
Mhm.
say, hey, hold on. And you clocked me like crazy. And I love that when it started happening though, both Tim and Chris, when Rand was like screaming and telling her she was a dirty whore and all these horrible things, you see Tim and Chris get up, and Tim is kind of like behind Rand as if he's going to like fight this girl. And I was like, what the hell? This is super. I don't like this. Don't
And
like
the
it.
amount of scenes where they are so close to one another talking, and like a lot of the time, like Tim has like his arm around someone is like talking to them like this. I'm like, don't be whispering in my ear. Like, why are y'all so close all the time? So close.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot of homoerotic stuff happening with the dudes because like they're constantly not wanting to have sex with their girlfriends, yelling at them, treating them like shit, and then they're showing like genuine affection for each other. Not that that's not normal because I think men should actually show more affection to their guy friends, but it was just like, what's wrong with these guys? Why are they so angry? Why? You're white men in America in the 90s and you're rich. What is the problem?
Yeah, because
I really
there's like another throwaway line about how rich Tim's dad is.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Like he's like the governor or his or company, I don't know, but he has a lot of money. And Tim said Tim and Rand and Tim are both extremely wealthy because that Tim was on that tangent, like you said, talking about how rich they are, and then they came from rich backgrounds. I want to know why. Why would you kill your roommate and do all this nonsense for a 4.0 when you literally got a B? At
yeah.
this point, all of them should have been able to get into Harvard no problem with at least daddy's money. Now we know that Chris is on scholarship, so maybe it's harder for him, but Jesus, it's not that serious, y'all.
So we have
And then after this scene,
we have 3 bottles of tequila because we each need our own for some reason. and 2 are like lemon water and food coloring, I guess. And then 1 is actual tequila, which Tim messes up at first, or it seems like he messes up at first, and he like gives Rand the wrong bottle, and so he switches it, and then Rand starts like seething, and Tim's like, "Oh yeah, I put rat poison in it for good measure." The fuck? Like they're gonna find that in the autopsy, you moron.
Right. Well,
Like,
and then he's like saying to Chris that they gotta throw the like do something to the body. And so then Chris is like, I can't do this. You do this. I never wanted to do this. This is horrible. And he's like, just look away. And then you see Tim take this big like rock. But we never see a body. We never see any real killing. We don't and then it's like the next day because well they cleaned up. They cleaned up
mhm.
and they left a note or whatever. So it's assumed that Tim got rid of the body because Chris never really saw what was happening. And then the next day, they're back in their room. And Emma is sleeping over. And as she turns over, and I got confused in this scene because I was like, are they just showing Tim in his room? And then I realized, oh no, they're all in the same room with each other. And then not Emma, Nat comes over saying like she's so done with Rand. She picks up her bra off the lamp, and I think she pulls a picture down from a cork board or something, says she's going home. And she says something about Rand going off a cliff or something. It's just so bad. It's so bad.
Well, and then so we see a scene where the chancellor and the counselor for some reason are telling Tim and Chris that they have this they get a 4.0 for the semester if they choose to accept it because their
Right.
roommate died.
Yes, they haven't found his body yet. And Tim like is overly emotional, and Chris is like, what are you doing? You know? And Matthew Lillard doing the most Matthew Lillard performance ever. He's crying, and they tell him he's going to get a 4.0, and he says, I don't really accept it. So now you start seeing that Tim is breadcrumbing pretty much that he's plotting something else and for Chris to take the fall of all of this stuff. And
oh, then we see the vigil. And it's on the steps of some building, maybe a church, I don't know. Did you notice that, the little cups that catch the wax on the candles were upside down?
No. I'll be honest. I was writing the notes as I was watching this, and I was barely like focused.
Because you know how you put something in, when you put a straw in a lid, the forky points point down, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the forky points were
Yeah.
pointing up, and I'm like, that cup is doing nothing. The wax is just gonna run off. I was like, y'all, you couldn't even get this right. I was out at this point.
Yeah.
And then it was literally they lit the candles and then they got up and left. And my mom was like, oh, so we were only doing a 5-minute vigil? Is that it? That's all the time they had to spare?
That's all Rand deserved.
It's true. But they had time to blow up a fucking 3x5 photo of him and hang it from the building.
They had that just hanging around.
So then Nat is distraught because she thinks somehow she manifested it because she said someone should push Rand off cliff, and that's what happened. And then she's so upset that she yeets herself off the cliff too. instead of going back to Canada like she said she was going to.
Which, okay, did she do kill herself or did they do it to her? Because I feel like if she's Catholic and she knew she was pregnant, I didn't think she would do that.
I'm sure it was partly their gaslighting was partly to blame, but also I think, yeah, Catholic guilt
Yeah.
and baby out of wedlock was probably the deciding factor in that whole thing. But also, bitch, you've known him 3.5 months. Like,
Yeah, she's the true victim in this whole scenario, honestly.
yeah,
She didn't deserve what happened to her. So now she's dead. And now Chris is starting to clue in. Chris and Emma start fighting because she's trying to get him to like chill out. Also, she doesn't know the other's pressures that he's going through with the fact that he essentially helped kill his roommate. So they break up. She's done with his shit because she's like, there's other schools other than Harvard. And he's like, there's only Harvard grad. Like, okay. Okay. So when they break up, the next time you see, there's this like cafe, I guess, that's on campus. Back to Dana Delaney, who literally does nothing but suck on candies inappropriately, give horrible psychiatric therapeutic advice. I don't even know what to call it. And three constantly at this cafe doing absolutely nothing. There's a earlier scene where she's with her dad and she goes to like there's this like corny ass barista, I guess, at this cafe that has these liners, and I didn't look to see if he's probably like a friend of the director or something, but it's so unnecessary.
when
But she's at the
she's
cafe.
sitting and they're like talking about how they've broken up and like all this shit and like just monologuing essentially in a public place, and
Telling
she's
their
just
whole plan.
sitting in a wingback chair like,
Oh, this is some juicy gossip. Because now Tim is playing with Emma saying, I think Chris killed Rand. And so Emma's like, I don't believe you. And she storms off. I don't care what you say about my girl, Carrie Russell. You can give her absolutely nothing, and she'll still do the most with it. She was the most believable for me in this movie. I'm
I
just going to
mean,
say it.
Matthew Lillard as someone going through a psychiatric episode in this movie was pretty believable at times. Like, oh, he needs
At
some
times.
he needs some meds and some therapies and maybe institutionalized for a while.
Yeah. I just feel like it's such a waste because he's so good at playing that. And it's like it kept going nowhere. I think that's what it was. It just he was up here and everyone like it's really hard to find a balance when you're up here and Michael Vartan is just like fucking flat, right?
Yeah.
And I know he's supposed to be playing this goody two shoes, but I think he could have given a little bit more. The only time we see really some oomph come out of him is at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where was this whole time? So now she's gone, and Tim goes back to Chris and is like, look, you want your girl back? Let's do it. Go and get all the romantic things, candles, fill her room. I'm going to take her out for a few drinks and bring her back to the room. You hide in the closet. And as soon as he was naming every little thing that he should do, I was like, oh, he about to fuck this man's girl for real. I just knew it automatically. I knew this
Yeah.
is where it was going. And so this dumbass does it. Chris goes in. I was real mad, probably too much so, at Chris for going and buying these plastic individually wrapped candles.
Yes.
Sir, where's the Sears? Where's the Target? Where's something that you could go buy in bulk? Like,
Yeah.
why are you buying? I know those had to be $15, $20 a piece.
Isn't he on a scholarship? How much you got candle money from that scholarship?
Right.
So yeah, and then so we come back
Right.
and it like the making out scene, wild. The way he is like aggressively like grabbing the back of her head and like the swinging of the head, like insane. And then the full laser beam eye contact he's making with the closet door as she's giving him head in the middle of the room. Wild.
First of all, why did it take so long for him to come out of the closet? As soon as he had her blindfolded, he should have came out. So again, it's some homoerotic shit happening between the two of them. I was surprised. I really, honestly, Jackie, I thought that man was gonna stand in that closet like the R. Kelly in the Closet series and just watch this man sleep with his girl. It was close to it. The fact that she got to the point where his penis was in her mouth means that you were in that closet for too long, my bruh. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, he was enjoying it too much. Like,
and then after we see him rush out of the closet, F you to both of them, and Tim leaves too. And then the next day you see Chris sitting on the floor out on campus, and here comes Emma like, my bad.
Everyone makes mistakes, you know.
Everybody makes mistakes. No.
And he's like, you had my roommate stick in your mouth. That's not
how.
Oh, whoopsie.
Yeah. But what's crazy is that like he's mad at Emma for a second, but shows like very little towards crazy ass Tim. But Emma says, I think Tim is trying to set you up. Like, clock it, my friend. Are you not getting this? So he's like, oh, shit, really? He goes back to his room, and here comes crazy Tim with a gun. Now it's Russian roulette time. What? I'm like, where is this movie going? Where is it going?
Like
is there an iceberg anywhere close to end this misery?
Yeah, and he's acting like erratic and like, I'm gonna kill myself and blah blah blah, and then you'll get your scholarship money. And Chris is like, whoa, 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 we're having a conversation. You tried to fuck my girlfriend. You're being a little high strung. Like, can we just talk about this shit? Where's Rand's body? And so they go out. Is this when they... Oh, and while he's talking to Tim about everything, you like see this sneaky shot into his pocket where he's recording, where like Tim essentially confesses everything. So then Emma, it seems like we don't see Emma explain a plan to Chris or like, this is what we're going to do. But we just show up at the lighthouse cliff thing, and we just kind of assume that Emma has this plan because Chris shows up with the recording, and Emma walks up to him and takes it, and then she's like, sorry, and then like hands it to Tim, and Chris is just like, what now? Why? What's going on? What's happening? So it seems like Emma was in on it the whole time, but like Emma got what she wanted because her roommate actually killed herself, so she gets the 4.0. And right. I guess we're just, who's going to get the 4.0 in the boys' dorm room? Like, that's where we're at. And then out walks Rand, still kicking. And him and Tim are like, got you good, Chris. We're going to make you jump off this ledge because we're getting the 4.0s. Pew, pew. And then Chris pulls out the gun and like acts like he's going to kill himself, which that's their end goal, Chris. Why are you helping them out? Everyone knows you put up a struggle, you get DNA under your nails, so they know it wasn't You doing
They didn't know that back then, Jackie. They didn't
It
know.
was 98. The Bone Collector
They didn't
was
have
out,
the
was writing books by that.
But guess what, Jackie? The joke's on us, the audience, because dun dun dun, Chris is
How's
in
West,
on it with
how's West Palm
Rand.
Beach?
Right. Tim is now odd man out. Emma don't know what the hell going on. And they have Tim back against the cliff coming at him. And he doesn't know when the switcheroo happened. He thought he was controlling the whole game.
He was getting
And
blowjobs. He was like alley-ooping his friends. He was like
what do you call a
convincing.
half blowjob? Half a pecker, half a pecker.
Just that.
It's more like the last part of how many licks do you get to
Yes.
two-roll pop, like the like that last part. That's it. But oh man.
So
And
they
so
throw this bitch
yeah.
over the cliff and they get the 4.0. And then we get like this thing at the end because Chris has maintained the whole time like it started out as a joke. And we do hear like a comedian talking about it at the beginning of the movie. And so apparently
Yeah.
Chris had heard that comedian mentioned it to Rand and Tim, which set off this weird fucking series of events. And then it's at this point, the movie's like ending, credits are rolling, and Heather goes, "Hold on, I know I dozed off for a second, but that's the end of the movie. Did I miss something?" We're like, "No, you didn't. You didn't miss anything. You are just as confused as we are about what we just watched." And that's The Curve.
Yay. We did it.
Woohoo!
Girl, is a mess. It's a mess, I say. A mess. All right, whatever fun facts we got. So we talked about this a little bit, that the film was renamed The Curve after its Sundance premiere because Dead Man on Campus, with a similar pass by catastrophe premise, was coming out. So to avoid confusion, they changed it to The Curve. It did not help. However, as we've seen a few times on this podcast, that when they change the title here in the United States, it sometimes is something completely different in the UK and Australia, which is what happened. They kept Dead Man's Curve for this movie in those countries.
The whole time for 20 plus years that this movie has been out, I always assumed The Curve meant like a curve in the road.
Girl,
Like
me
never.
too. I thought this was gonna be I Know What You Did Last Summer vibes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, okay, like I get there's a lighthouse and a cliff. There must be a road with a curve, and that's where they like eat people out of the car or something. Or cars go
No,
over the cliff all the time because of the curve in the road.
really, the name was after Tim's penis. It's The Curve.
Does it go
Yeah.
left or right?
Not sure. I would say he's a lefty.
Okay. I can get down with that. The bullseye of the dartboard in Chris and Tim's dorm room is a photo of Vince Vaughn.
Very accurate to how I feel about Vince Vaughn in today of 2025.
Yes. Did you
They were
also
ahead of the
notice
times.
when they're sitting on their bed side by side having a weird conversation where they don't really look at each other, they're just looking straight ahead yet talking to one another? There's a cactus on the nightstand in between them, and there is a condom over one of the like arms of the cactus.
You know, I didn't notice.
I'm like, is that? Oh, that's a condom on the cactus.
Gross. In the opening scene, and I rewound it because I was like, hold on. They're looking at a student roster and there's a bunch of names, but clearly you see Jennifer Lopez listed as a student, which is funny because Michael Vartan ends up playing opposite Jennifer Lopez as her love interest in Monster-in-Law that came out in 2005.
What movie did we just do where there was also secret people on the roster? Tommy Boy.
Yes. Yeah. That was done on purpose. I don't
Yeah.
know if this one was done on purpose.
Oh, that's true. As Tim reveals his plan for Chris to get Emma back, it cuts to an open-air shot of Chris purchasing flowers. His shadow and the shadows of a number of other people and props are clearly visible on the sky backdrop behind him. Of course they are. That's the caliber of this movie.
It's not really a fun fact, but it's a fact that's itching my brain that I have to scratch because we already know who I am. I just love that Michael Vartan and Carrie Russell play love interest in this movie. And then we know that he plays love interest with Jennifer Garner on Alias. And then she also plays love interest with Scott Foley and vice versa. So it's like a little square between the four of them. They've all swap spit pretty much, except Michael and Scott, which wouldn't mind it.
Camera crew and a boom mic are reflected in the car window when Chris is arguing with the two detectives outside the campus. So just more continuity shit that if he cared about anything other than writing a mediocre script, he should have caught.
Well, if you've seen this movie, I really want to meet you. I really want to know. I know Jackie does too. So hit us up on socials at No More Late Fees on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Threads, Blue Sky, and tell us how you felt about this movie. And if you haven't seen this movie, we also want to hear from you. All right, Jackie. I don't know if I accidentally left this here or
nope. I already did it. Sorry, I buried the lead. Same day rental for me, and I didn't want to have to download another app to my TV, so I bought this shit for $5 on iTunes.
Oh no!
I mean, it was $5.
No,
it's fun. Maybe Matthew Lillard gets like 16 cents, and it'll be worth it. So if I didn't say before, same day rental. I won't be watching this again, ever.
Same. It's a same day rental for me. At first, I was thinking maybe because I love Carrie so much, it'd be 2-day at least. And it's not as, I don't know, it's bad in a different way than Killjoy was. So yeah, same day rental.
Yeah, like Killjoy, like you could still find glimmers of enjoyment with Killjoy. This was just shitty. Well, if you love The Curve, like Danielle said, we really want to hear from you. So you can hit us up at our socials, or you can call us at our quick drop 909-601-6653. Twat us at the Twitters, hum us at the Threads, butterfly in the sky at Blue Sky, and you could be featured on a future episode.
And join us next week as Lillard Mayhem continues with SLC Punk.
Wahoo! I don't know why I went Mario on that.
Oh, I was thinking Goofy because I used to have the Sega Genesis game and he would make all sorts of noises like that.
And as always, be kind and rewind.